All right, all right, all right. The boys are back for the No BS Golf Show. Your boy Brad Thomas here with Chris Mills. And last week we did not find a winner. While I know Chris was close, I was about as far off as you possibly could be. But before we get into the Pebble Beach recap, Chris, I know you've been out and about on vacation, living the life. I need to ask you, what is the best thing that you ate last week, or at least on your trip?
So it's a little boring, but it was actually a salad. It was like a
Okay.
Mediterranean Puerto Rican feel salad. I'm not normally one that kind of goes for the salad, but I am one
Yeah.
that tends to ask for recommendations when I go places that I've never been before. But some good steak, good meat. Obviously down there, tacos, all that fun stuff. But I can say like the takeaway for me was this crazy salad I had. So if I go back, I'm definitely gonna hit it up again.
Sweet. Well, welcome back. Let's get into it. Roy wins Pebble Beach. For me, I thought that was a kind of a slap in the face for me. I built out this model, and Roy shouldn't have been a great fit here. Hasn't been hitting his wedges well, right? And goes out there and he overpowers the course. Wedges looked to be on point, and his putter was rolling. Any takeaways from Pebble Beach that you want to kind of talk about here?
You know what? I look terrible because last week I was ripping on Rory on our show specifically because, and you know this, and I think
Yeah.
anyone who follows golf, his wedges just struggle, right? Like
Yeah.
with small greens, with POA, they were supposed to be bouncy. Traditionally, does not have good history there. Well, shoved it down my throat, especially when I've had a guy that finished third. I don't know if he was catchable, but yeah, he looked pretty good this week. Wow.
He looked good. So let's talk about the good for me. I did hit that round two parlay. I'll make sure I get straight to put that up. It was weird, right? We had head to heads in rounds one and two. It felt kind of interesting, like felt kind of chalky. I guess say interesting is not the right word because you're gonna put some minus 140 legs in there. And the best you're probably going to get, unless you're taking Brian Harmon versus Scotty, is plus 100. So it had to be 5 legs just to get to 10-1.
Yeah, I mean, it was a bit of a back and forth, right? It's rare that you start two ball, then switch to three ball on the
Yeah.
weekend. So it was a little bit opposite. And I know we're going to get into this a little bit later, but a lot of times you can look at a model, you can look at history, you can look at like comparisons 1v1, and you throw a little weather in there. And honestly, it just goes out the window.
Yep.
So you're trying to find as much value as possible. And I found there were more minus 140s, minus 130s that actually went down in their matchups. So it was definitely the day of the dog on the Thursday and Friday.
Yeah, you talk about that. I think there's one golfer who comes to mind, and sorry to rub this sore subject a little bit, but Tony Finau, right? Like popped on the model. I think he was top 5 in my model, but then when the wind came, he just kind of fell apart. And the wind is the great equalizer, right? Weather's a great equalizer because Scotty Scheffler said this. It's sometimes just a little bit of luck, right? Like you get the right wind gust there, or you avoid the wind gust. Your ball bounces the right way when you're in those heavy winds, and you just got to hit the shots you can. Like he said, he striped the 5 iron and it went 100 and like
Yeah.
65 yards. So a little bit of luck there. Go ahead and talk to me about Lucas Glover and kind of what you saw when you jumped on him live.
Yeah, so I jumped on him live. I mean, this is a guy who started the tournament at plus 250 to 1. It was plus 25,000. And then you look at him this week, if you're looking at the odds, he's down to plus 6,000, right?
Yeah.
So he's the type of guy that traditionally, when he gets hot, he stays hot. So he's getting the respect this week, but obviously no respect last week, which makes sense because he had zero form going into there. The
Dude, I was
bad
gonna be
for me, the ugly for me was Glover because let's just look at, and I'll just break down Sunday alone. Within
okay.
the first 6 holes, he missed from 14, 14, 11, 7, and on the par 5, he was shortened 2, hit it up to 3 feet 9 inches, and missed the putt there as well. So if a couple of those drop early, he actually has the lead, and then Rory 3 putts from on 6, had an eagle putt, 3 putts makes par. He could have had a 1 or 2 shot lead. Was he
Yeah.
going to get to minus 21? He made a little bit of charge on the back nine, but when you have a guy at 151, right, plus 15,000, I mean, that it was exciting for about 5 minutes. And then, it is what it is. Finished third, had some good form, but yeah, the community was definitely excited, for about 5 minutes.
Dude, I was gonna be pissed if he would have won that tournament. Not for you, but I bet him his last outing, and I think he missed the cut there. But I will a little foreshadowing probably be on him this week. I think the bad for me was just Eric Cole, right? Like week in and week out, we say we're not betting Eric Cole. I bet Eric Cole not only to win the tournament at 150 to 1, but I bet him to finish inside the top 20, 3 rounds inside the top 20, then finishes T23, which to me was just like a slap in the face, right? Like
Yeah.
it's like you keep doing the same thing over and again and you expect a different result.
Yeah.
That was pretty bad for me.
Yeah, moving forward, Eric Cole, honestly, he's a round 1 flyer for me.
Yes.
That's it. At this point, round 1, no pressure, goes out, hits the ball well, makes more putts. But honestly, he's just not a pressure player. He's
No.
invisible when it actually matters. And I joined you with that. I liked that top 20. There was good value there. And he's T8, after the first round, posted -6 on Pebble. He was around there for the next 2 rounds, thinking, great, we can at least backdoor plus, 195. Let us down again. Eric Cole, banned. No more Eric Cole.
And ban list Eric Cole. All right, go ahead with your bad, and then you can go roll right into the ugly.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just gonna say, I mean, the bad for me again is really just the hedging opportunity. So for those of us who know and who have been betting golf live, our goal is to have a couple players, at the top of the leaderboard come Sunday, right? And I've said this before, and I'm excited to talk about this a little bit later, but I've mentioned it. It's about diversifying that portfolio as much as you can, right? You have your guys that are your flyers, you have your favorites, you have your mid range. You want to sprinkle, you want to bet on maybe 3 to 7 players every tournament. And then again, come Sunday, hope we have some dogs in the fight. Why we do that is so that way, if your guy is near the top of the board, hopefully leading, if you have someone that you don't, if there's someone there that you don't have, second or third place, 1 or 2 strokes back, you have the opportunity to hedge, right? And make as much money as possible. But when it's someone like a Rory or someone like a Scotty or a guy that gets super like a bunch of respect, like a JT, like the guys that we do know, it's really hard to find the value on the hedge, right? Because as soon as Rory got to the top of that leaderboard, he was negative odds.
Yeah.
It didn't really make sense. Granted, it would have been great in hindsight's 2020, but he could have easily lost. I could have hedged on him, and then Shane Lowry pops up, or Straka
Yep.
actually holds on, and then you lose twice. So that's always tough for me, and I'd say that's a little bit of the ugly on my side.
Yeah, it's just kind of tough, right? Like you want those guys to be in the last group, going toe to toe, separate themselves from the pack to get a really good hedge opportunity. For me, the ugly, the round four lotto, you don't know. Me and you talked about it, and then
Yeah,
I posted the round four lotto. A lot of ties, a lot of wins, and then Tommy Fleetwood on 18, dude, in the middle of the fairway. All you have to do, bail right, get up and down. You win your group,
yeah,
gets wet, ruins the round four lotto. For me, I didn't think we were gonna hit a lotto this tournament just because of how difficult it was. Like first you had the two balls, then you move to three balls with the weather, and the
yeah,
fact that it was Tommy Fleetwood, the guy who is the Sunday superstar, the guy who plays well in weather,
yeah.
waits to 18 to spoil the whole thing. That was my ugly.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to rub salt in your wound, but I don't know if you looked at the actual scorecards, but he was up 3
Yeah,
with holes to play. Seamus Power makes from 22 feet on 16.
the
He then
holes,
chips in from the bunker on 17, goes
dude.
birdie par, and beats Fleetwood by 1 because Fleetwood bogeyed 18. So
It
yeah,
was
that was
brutal.
pretty ugly
It
for
was
sure.
brutal. Well, let's get into the course, the tournament, right? Man, what a great tournament, Waste Management, Phoenix Open at TPC Scottsdale Stadium courses they're playing. Defending champion Nick Taylor. This is the party amongst all parties, right? Stadium whole people chugging beers, dudes taking their shirts off. To get into the golf tournament, you literally have to wait in line at the opening bell. They let everyone in. It's a madhouse, mad rush. That said, this is still a pretty fun tournament. Course place, 7,200, 7,300 yards, par 71, pole with ryegrass overseed. Decent sized greens, about 7,000 square feet. Uh, 6 holes, only 6 holes of water in play, but there are some protective water, which I like, where some runoffs in. So if you go short on that par five, you can run off into the water. I like holes like that. This is another course where it should be a little more bouncy again because there's some more dry spells. We had that at Torrey. We saw that newer greens with not a lot of water there, not a lot of rain. This is another one, second longest dry streak in history, 159 days without rain, August 24th to January 29th. I'll just go into like the kind of golfers that I'm looking at. For this week, I did two different models. The first model, I made it a very ball striker centric model. So I took a lot of, I did good drives, right? Like, I don't really care if they hit the fairway, but if they miss the fairway, I don't wanna miss it by much because it's really trimmed down on those collars of the fairway. I did add some driving distance, right? Like, there is a little bit of a correlation of the guys who've won here in the past with driving the ball well, but also deep. Well, Brooks Koepka, Scotty Scheffler, and the list goes on of guys who can actually poke it out there.
Yeah.
For my buckets, I love my buckets, my proximity bucket. I only did one. I did 150 to 175. It wasn't that much that stood out in terms of proximity at this course. When I did the course breakdown, and I could go through this briefly. There was only 2 buckets that were a little bit more than, half a stroke gained, a little bit more than point 0.2 stroke gained, and that was 150 to 175 and then 200 plus, but that was still 200 plus was still under tour average, which didn't make sense for me to add that there. And then I wanted to make sure that I got sand saves. There's a number of bunkers in play. I think it's, how many bunkers are on this? 67 bunkers on this course, and more importantly, course history.
Yeah.
I just think that the same kinds of guys win this tournament and the same guys who have success, right? Like Nick Taylor won last year. Year before that, I think he was runner up. So I just want to kind of get that repetitive feel. Any, stats that I didn't mention that you kind of want to bring up?
We just mentioned it, so I'll piggyback off that.
Yeah.
If we look at the guys who have won over the last 7 to 8 years, what's really interesting, there's a correlation to prior to winning, they had a very strong finish. So if we look back, we look Nick Taylor finished second, right, in his the
Yeah.
previous year and then won. We look at Scotty finished 7th and then won. Brooks Koepka was up there, finished high up on that board and then won. Webb Simpson finished second and then won. Ricky Fowler finished second and then won. And then Hideki also has a second and then wins. So what we're seeing is people who have traditionally played well here have followed up with a potential win, whether it's a first win or a second win. So a lot of my picks will have that consistency this week based on not only last year, but just recent form at this course. Um, Go ahead.
No, I think mine, at least one of my picks certainly follows that trend. And it's funny that you said that because I don't think like a lot of people really pay attention to that. They're like, "Oh, tournament history," and then
Yeah.
they go and bet the guy who has three missed cuts, but 4 years ago, they played well here. Yeah, that
Yeah.
can work, but it's really good form leading up to the tournament, but also really good form at the tournament, basically the year prior.
Yeah, exactly. And typically we know the closing stretch, right? We have
Yep.
15, the par five, right? You got to hit the fairway there. You got to be 4 or 5 under on that hole for the week to be there. And then you got to handle 16, 17, the short drive, short par four, drivable par four. You got to be under par on that hole, which again can be sneaky, right? With the water short on the left, guys do go in there and struggle to make par. And then 18, as long as you stay out of those bunkers on the left and the right, hit the fairway, you got a short wedge in there. So traditionally, the guys who have won this tournament play 15 through 18 extremely well.
Yeah, I'm excited for this tournament because I think you can go a lot of different ways on the guys you bet, but ultimately you'll have the guys who kind of have those same qualities. Before we get into our picks, we're going to invite a special guest in, someone who was kind enough to join us. You can find him on X at BNBEATIN the bookie. That's beating the bookie. Rob, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me on. It's first time on you guys' show, but I've met both of you guys in person, so an easy
Yeah.
choice to come on. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, we're gonna ask a couple questions, then we're gonna go through some outrights. Actually, we're ask a couple questions and go through the mailbag, a couple follower questions that they wanted to know. But I feel like everyone wants to know this. I've wanted to know this. How did you get into sports and like sports betting and the handicapping aspect of sports?
Well, I played sports growing up. I swam on the United States national team for swimming, and was just always really competitive. And when I was in college, I started playing online poker,
Okay.
and I won a lot of money, like $60,000 in 3 days when I first started playing it. And I was like 21 at the time. I just started betting, and I can remember the first game I bet really was like the Texas USC national championship. Um, and then I just got into it, and I can remember the first time I bet big on a game. What I thought big was I bet on Notre Dame to beat Michigan with Brady Quinn. like $1,500 at the time. Thought that was a lot of money, and they got destroyed. So I've always watched pretty much every game. You know, I watch a lot of games.
Yeah.
I'm not one of those people that bet just what they just look at the numbers. They don't watch any of the games. You know, I watch all the games. I can't really bet on a game if I'm not watching it. It's very tough. I at least follow them. So I've been betting for over 20 years. And like I said, I like to work hard, you know, so I feel like it just translates naturally. I feel like being a good bettor is just one of those things that you either have or you don't, you know. Some people are mushes, some people are, you know, good bettors. And about 11 years ago, I joined Twitter and I just started doing it for fun. And then after a few months, it blew up. And, you know, 11 years later, I have a lot of clients and, you know, I don't do anything else besides this. So it's worked out well, especially, I mean, if you work hard, you know, you can do whatever you want. So it's nice being my own boss.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I appreciate you coming on. You're one of the OGs. You know, there's I feel like everywhere I go, whether it's Instagram, X, everybody's a capper now, right? You hit one ticket and you're a capper. But there's people that are able to sustain that for a long period of time, and you know, the people who are consistently generating great tickets and building great communities. And I know you're one of those people. So
Yeah.
appreciate you being here.
I look at it either you have one job as a handicapper, or you have another job and then you do handicapping in part time. You know,
Yeah.
so it's like, you know, so a lot of people do it full time, like as their only job. So, but yeah, the space is getting. I mean, it's been getting flooded, right, since they legalized sports betting. But if you're good, people will find you no matter what. I don't really think it matters, and you have to figure when new people come along, especially on Twitter, the fail rate is probably 95%, you know, so 95% of those people are gone after a few months, and maybe they start a new name or something like that. But it doesn't really concern me because, like I said, if you're good, people will find you. So
Yeah, I totally agree. Brad and I, and even yourself, I think we're in a bit of a unique situation when it comes to, you know, capping. Everyone does, you know, the basketball of the world, the hockey, you know, whatever the case is. Baseball is obviously huge as well. There's very few people that actually cap golf, and you know the grind that golf is. Golf's super hard. It's one of those, you know, lotto type sports. You can use models like Brad does. You can watch every single shot and just have a Rain Man like memory like I do.
yeah,
But it doesn't necessarily mean that you're just going to have a lock every week, right?
yeah,
And it's tough for sure. So
yeah,
what
it is. It's for sure.
I wanted to ask you, you know, what your experience on golf specifically, what advice would you give to golf bettors who want to kind of profit not only short term but long term?
Yeah, I mean, I do use some models like, you know, Data Golf, and I use Bet the Number. But at the end of the day, like I look for, I think the most important thing when I'm looking for a golfer is who's playing well at the time. I hate backing golfers who are like not playing well, but you know, they have a great number coming into a tournament, and it's like you just don't really know what to expect. It's like just throwing stuff at a wall and hoping it sticks, right? So I'm a big momentum better. So just like in hockey, right? I'm gonna ride the hot streak, right? Or
Yeah.
you know, so I look for golfers who are playing well. Um, you know, if they're fully healthy or not. I feel like you can get a lot of information online these days.
Yeah.
And I do stay away from certain guys like that just fail me all the time, like Sung Jam. He no matter what, if I bet on Sung Jam, he's gonna lose. If I bet against him, he's gonna beat me. So
Yeah.
it's just some guys you just have to learn to stay away from.
Yeah.
Um, and I feel like when you watch golf long enough, like betting first round leaders, for example, like if you watch long enough, you know the guys who start out fast, right?
Yeah.
It's usually the same 20 guys, right, that start out fast. Every now and then you'll have some guy who's ranked 100th in the world, like a Harry Hall, who comes along and he's round leader. But I feel like it's just like just watching, you know, just watching a lot of golf. You know, you're looking at stats and obviously stuff like that, but I just like to play guys who are in good form, right? Because you never want to back somebody who's playing terrible. So
Yeah.
And golf is one of those. And golf is a sport where it's like you can have a really good tournament. Like if you can cap the tournament, you can do very well, or you can think you do a great job capping it, and when it goes south, and it goes south fast, right? Like you could have 5 matchups and easily lose every single one, especially when it comes to 3-ball with their dead heat odds 3-ball, right? So one thing I do hate about it is dead heat. I hate dead heat odds. It's the biggest. I think it's the biggest scam in all of sports betting.
Yep.
But you just have to learn to just avoid stuff like that. So like top 20s and stuff, I very rarely do many of those now, just because it's not even worth risking in dead heat, right? So golf is definitely it's probably the toughest sport, to be honest.
Yeah.
Just because it takes so much, and there's so many bets, and when you're giving out picks to clients who buy a golf package, it's like everybody has a different sports book.
Yeah.
And then you have one bet's not available at their sports book. And then like Hard Rock Bet, for example, had the worst golf offerings in history for all of last year. All of last year, right? Yeah, it's the worst offerings in history. So you have to go to 10 other books to find odds. And so, I mean, the book's not having the same matchups every week as other books have. Like, so it gets a bit tough sometimes, but like I said, I've shrunk my golf cards. I used to have so many plays. Now I shrink them down big time. So it's probably the toughest sport by far. And you have to learn them. I mean, it's obviously the most data out of any sport. But it's a very tough sport. But sometimes we get a little luckier than others. I know you had a 6 season last year. Like we both hit the Sony Open with Grayson Murray.
Yeah.
That was great. But you had a ton of long shots last year, which was crazy. But more first round leaders I get than actual tournament winners. So I'll take what I can get.
I'm so bad at first round leader.
Well, listen, if Hard Rock, if this ends up getting to you, improve your golf options. I've been asking for it forever.
They don't care.
No, they don't give a shit. All the other sports have improved. I'll give them credit there. The book's getting better. But when it comes to golf, another thing too is like betting hockey. Why do all the props lock when the game starts? What's that about?
Yes.
That's
and why when you add a leg, if you're doing like a 5-game same game parlay, sometimes you'll add a leg, and it will make the odds lower.
Yes. That makes zero sense. Their parlay odds offerings sometimes are a little bad. Like you're like, what is happening here?
Yeah, you'll parlay like literally like yesterday. I'm trying to put I put 2 plus 180 legs together.
Yeah.
In a same game parlay, and it put the odds like plus 190 with them combined. I'm like, this is not. It's not supposed to be like that. So.
Yeah, it's like if you stack McDavid points with Draisaitl points, somehow the odds go up, right? Because they don't want you stacking line mates.
Correlated plays, no same power play lines. Like,
anyways, we could rip on them for a whole hour. Maybe we
let's move over to the mailbag. We can round robin the mailbag. So we had 2 questions from followers. Number 1, is there anything in particular you look for when putting together 3-ball parlays? Is it player versus player versus course, or other factors? I'll go first, because I think we all have a different kind of strategy. So if it's a course where I think we can get a ton of data and there's shot link, round by round, I'll build out a round model. Guys who and you could do this by your naked eye, like the guys who start fast or the guys who are Sunday finishers. It just puts it in strokes gained data. But then I don't just blindly bet people, right? Like the price has to make sense for me. And like I know, Chris, you've seen me text you like, this price on this guy is just disrespectful. Sure, they might be really close in the model. One guy could be 13th, the other guy can be 16th. But if you have a guy, and I'll give you an example, like let's say it's Tommy Fleetwood versus Sepp Straka in this moment, and they have Tommy Fleetwood listed at minus 130, minus 140. I don't care what the model says. The way Sepp Straka is playing right now, I have to bet Sepp Straka because he's going to be plus 120 or better. So for me, that's what it's like. Also, course horses are really good regardless of their price. Generally, if you just keep banking on a course horse out of, let's say he makes a cut 4 rounds, he's probably going to win that group 2-3 of the times. So that's kind of what I do. I'll kick it to you, Rob, then you can finish that one up, Chris.
For me, it's golfer versus golfer, right? Like, I mean, I had I think at the Farmers, I had Valley Mackey like plus 350 in his 3-ball first 2 rounds. I think I won his 3-ball 3 times that tournament with over
sick.
plus 300 odds because he's playing like a Charlie Hoffman there, and lesser known guys who should never be like a minus 150 favorite over anybody, right? So I look more golfer to golfer, and I also factor like I'm never trying to take a minus 130, minus 140 guy in a 3-ball,
Mm.
because especially with the dead heat odds. I mean, say
Yeah.
they tie, they beat the third guy by like 4 strokes, and they tie like, say Scotty Scheffler ties like Nick Taylor. It's like
Yeah.
his odds go, the dead heat odds makes it totally pointless. So I do like to take a shot, and then sometimes it's nice to take a shot for 1 unit, and you win 3.5 units, right? And it's like it's a lot less worrisome than taking a minus 150 for a 3-ball. So I just like golfer versus golfer, and like you said, like the Sepp Straka versus Tommy Fleetwood, it's a momentum thing, so I like that as well. I mean, I would take Straka any day over Tommy Fleetwood at this current time.
Totally agree. I mean, at the end of the day, these are 18 holes. They're all professionals. They're all very good golfers. And when sometimes you just see a price and it's like you just have to take it, even if you do it as a single, right? We all know whether it's this sport, if it's golf, if it's any other, parlays are where the books make their money. They want you to add as many legs as you can, right? Sometimes breaking them up. So when I make my suggestions on my matchups, a lot of time if I give a 3-play or a 4-play, I'll suggest, go on the parlay, but take them as singles. Because if you're 50% or more, but you're always on plus odds, obviously we want to avoid the ties for the dead heat. But even if you're 50% plus and you're taking decent odds, you're profiting every day on these matchups. So typically, I haven't been hitting too many matchup parlays, because it is really, really hard, especially with 3-ball. But our percentages on singles have been really, really strong.
That's sick.
Because we can't parlay singles at Hard Rock. It's like ridiculous. You can only parlay a 3-ball. It's like it's just ridiculous.
So stupid.
Yeah. Oh, that's another thing. So Hard Rock, if you're listening again, remove the tie. Like if you're doing 1v1, a tie is a loss. It's ridiculous. It makes no sense. Every other book gives you, yes, it's lesser odds, but ties happen. To lose a perfect parlay on 2, you go 3 for 4, and one guy ties and you lose, makes no sense. Another thing, I'm piggybacking.
Yeah, go ahead. Good.
Injury insurance, you gotta have that. Like basketball props, right? You have a guy, great play, but the guy gets injured in the first quarter and your play is dead. Like I would pay, and I've talked to Rob about this, I would pay an additional percentage or pay to buy parlay insurance on that specific player. Like that's guaranteed revenue for them, right? You're paying for it. Most of the parlays don't hit anyways, so they'd be double dipping on their end. And then me as a consumer, I feel like, oh, well, if he gets injured, I'll be covered. But anyways, it's not my business, but that's how that'd be an additional revenue stream for me.
Parlay insurance. Well, let's get into the next one. It's kind of segue, and we'll go into our outrights after this. It's about Nick Taylor, right? Already a win on the season. He's playing really well, and he's the defending champion here. I'm going to go straight to you, Chris. What do you think about Nick Taylor this week?
Well, as Rob alluded to earlier, Nick Taylor was a star for us last year. We actually hit him first round leader and pre-tournament last year, 150-1. Soft spot in my heart, obviously being a Canadian as well. Do I like him this week? It's hard to not like him, right? I think he's getting a little bit more respect this week than he has in years past, which is good. But win there last year, second the year before, already has a win this week. Granted, there's a few bigger names this year than years past, just because I believe, is it not a signature event again this year?
Correct. Yeah.
And then you have Scotty in the field and obviously a couple other big names, but he's in the plus 6,000 range. I didn't put him in my picks this week, but I wouldn't be surprised to see him in a top 20 type range.
Yeah, he's an interesting golfer because I feel like he's the guy who generally wins the one tournament a year, and just kind of hangs around, right? Just kind of hangs around until his game kind of dies. I think he might be playing a little bit better to start this year, just because of, maybe he has a little bit of motivation missing out on the President's Cup. I was trying to go back to look at my history. I live bet him, but I think it was just a hedge, so I didn't count that as a winner. I live bet him. I was trying to see who I had. um, winning the tournament. Who was in second place last year? Hoffman. I didn't have Hoffman. It was either Burns
Yeah.
or Scheffler, and it was just a hedge for me. So I didn't think much of him coming in. Definitely hold him in a higher regard from a statistical standpoint, right? Like the dude is coming in here with the kind of form you want for a guy that's going to play any TPC course, right? He's been a gainer on approach every tournament since St. Jude's, right? Like that's back in August of last year. He's gained at least 3 strokes in his last 3 starts, and you can forgive the off the tee numbers like at Pebble Beach in the wind. That's
Yep.
totally fine. You can forgive the off the tee numbers at the Amex, especially here, right? Like Nick Taylor's game should translate pretty well here. So if you like Nick Taylor, go ahead and bet him. The only reason I'm not betting Nick Taylor this week, number one, I just defending champs. If it's a defending champ, I want him to be a guy like a Scotty, like a Rory, a guy who's been doing the press and the media. It's being shoved down their throats, right? Like Nick Taylor has an extra interview press conference at 3 p.m. on Tuesday in the middle of his practice round or at the end of his practice round, changes the schedule of a typical tournament. That might not seem like much, but that's just one thing that we know about, right? Like when you're a defending champion, you have so much more media that you have to do. And guys like Nick Taylor aren't doing media all of the time like Scotty or Rory or even Rom with Liv.
Yeah, makes sense.
Rob, you have any thoughts on Nick Taylor before we move into the outright?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think he's had his best start to a season so far. He's playing very consistent. Also, like you said, his approach is very, he's ranked like 7th in approach, I think, right now.
Mm-hmm.
And his greens and regulation, he's right up there, top 10. I mean, his driving speed, his driver speed is, like 119, I think it is. But I don't really think that is really going to matter much here, especially his accuracy off the tee here. There's not a lot of, he's not going to be hitting it into the woods here, right? And,
Yep.
I mean, this is a dry, a very dry course. So, and obviously, winning last year, and I think, this is a place where guys have continued success, right? Like Justin Thomas, I think he's got 5 straight top 10s here, right?
Yep.
Or like 5 straight top 13s. So guys who play well here, they usually play well, year on end. Like for example, Jordan Spieth, he always plays well here. I think he got 6th place last year. It was his best finish of the year. But like this is one of the courses where it's like horses for courses, like you said earlier, right? And
Yep.
I think Nick Taylor, I think with more wins he's had under his belt, I think he's getting more used to that media stuff,
Yeah.
So I do like him this week. He's been one of the biggest, he's becoming a winner every season, right? Like he's winning, he's overtaking guys like winning more than JT, Jordan Spieth,
Yep.
Max Homa. So I think he's he's getting used to it, and I do think there's some pretty good value on him, for a top finish in this tournament.
There's something to be said too about these younger guys or these newer faces, right? Like it's hard, don't want to call them a new face, right? But you get what I mean. These newer winners they're winning more consistently. The Nick Taylors, the Sepp Strakas, than these guys that we've propped up as these next superstars, and it's kind of cool to see for me personally because golf can some kind of turn into a boys' club, right? Where favoritism, especially when it coming to Ryder Cup teams, President Cups team. So it's cool to see that these guys like Straka and Nick Taylor getting the jobs done. Let's get into our outrights. And I'll skip myself first. I don't have a favorite. I didn't take anyone from the favorite range. And if I do, it'll be Hideki. But I have 3 guys in the favorite range who all grade out top 5. And obviously number 1 is Scotty Scheffler. And I'm not going to pay. It's always down to plus 250 on Hard Rock. I put a couple parlays just for fun, but it's probably Hideki, but I haven't gotten to the window yet. So Chris, take it away.
Yeah, I'm on Decky too, right? Plus 1,500. Guy has amazing form. He's won this year. The weather should be nice. He tends to do well when the weather is nice. He also hasn't been too accurate off the tee of late. So I think the fact that there's ultimately no rough will help him. But if his irons are on, my goodness, he'll be right there come Sunday. But he's a little bit boring. He's a kind of a boring pick. That's like, hey, Chris, great job. You're very obvious in your pick. But I think at plus 1,500, I think he's fair, right? I think that Scotty is obviously Scotty, but at plus 250, I have a great Scotty bet for everybody, by the way, which we'll get into. But at plus 250, I mean, give me a break. If he wins, he wins. I'm not touching it. But Matsuyama at plus 1,500, he's for sure my favorite in that range.
Move it over to you, Rob. Do you have anybody in the lower value? I'd say like under
Yeah.
30 to 1.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'd say if you want to bet Scotty, like wait till the tournament starts and see if he
Yeah.
gets like a later tee time. Hope somebody else starts out hot and maybe he goes to plus 500, right? Or he starts out, round one a little slow, because we know he can reel guys in, very fast. So, but I mean, at plus 250, plus 300, it's very hard to bet a guy out, right? I'd kind of like, I'd take a look at JT at plus 1,500. He's been playing, much more consistently to start this season. His worst finish here in the last 5 years is 13th place. So he plays this course just as good as anybody. He's a few tournaments into his season now. So, his body's getting used to playing, whereas Scotty, last week was his first week back. So maybe he's a little more tired headed into this tournament than the other golfers. So I'd probably take a little buyer Justin Thomas plus 1,500 in that favorite range. And if I bet Scotty, like I said, it's probably first round leader. You can get Scotty like 12-1 first round leader. That's the better bet for me than betting 3-1 to win the whole tournament.
I agree.
Yeah, and it's funny too. Like, make sure you always shop. Like, you guys know this, but anybody watching, like JT, I was off JT initially because I saw he dropped to 11-1, but there's still 14 and 15s hanging around there. I literally just checked 30 seconds ago. You could still get 15 to 30-1s. I did see JT's stat profile was pretty sick last week, right? The dude played good outside of the blowups, right? Like if he wasn't blowing up on those holes, he would have been a top 5 finish. What he finished last week, like T13 or something around that mark.
Yeah. He
T48.
had a beautiful chip in from the bunker on 18 to.
Yep.
He destroyed Jordan's. He was like minus 150 against Spieth in every matchup, and I just took it every time. I'm like, because Jordan's like his wrist is injured. I don't know, stuff like that, but he had a beautiful chip in on 18 out of the bunker. So he's playing. The consistency in his game is definitely getting up there.
I'll say this about JT. People talk about the putting, but this is one of those courses where putting's not really going to separate you that much. If you look at the distance of birdie or better putts made, it's literally less than tour average for almost everything except for like 25-foot putts. So basically, like what that means is guys aren't just out there draining 10-foot putts at a high clip at this course, not compared to the tour average, which I thought was pretty cool. I think actually it gets to like 20 feet and up is when it really starts to matter, but that's lag putting, really, right? Like the amount of golfers I think have like a 12% chance of making a 25-foot putt. So I don't really mind his putting woes, which haven't been all that awful since the century. Let's move over to the mid range. I went with Kurt Kitayama, and Kurt Kitayama follows what I have to have, right? If a guy follows number 1 in my model, that's not the tournament favorite, I have to bet him. Things to like about Kurt Kitayama. He's second in ball striking over his last 24 rounds. He drops down to like third in over the last 36. He's great off the tee, great on approach, which is the ball striking numbers, but he's a streaky putter, right? Like I said, the putting's not going to be the massive factor in terms of this guy's always a good putter, so he's going to come here and putt well. You're putting from those longer distant ranges that have lower chance of making it. So you just need to get hot with your putter, kind of like what Decky did in his win earlier this season. I think Kurt Kitayama could follow that same mode. So I went with him as my price. I think I got plus 7,000 on him, which was a fair price to me. Finished T8 here last year as well. Is a place where he plays well.
Yeah, honestly, if you remember the year he won Arnold Palmer, he actually was first round leader. If I remember at Waste Management, he came out and people were like, "Who's this guy? Is he Asian? He's American?" Right? No one had heard of him before. But I remember that was his coming out party at that event, and then proceeded to win the Arnold Palmer in March. That's a sneaky pick, man. He wasn't on my radar, but I actually think I might.
Funny story. I interviewed him. After that tournament, and I just remember like the producers in my ear like saying pronouncing his name, like, you better not mess up his last name. Say it right, say it right. And I'm just like, Kitayama, Kitayama.
I'm
It's like
pretty sure it's
Kitsuyama is
pronounced
actually
like
what it
it's
really
spelled,
is.
so I feel like someone in your position should probably not mess that up, but, uh
Listen, I have to know names of guys in every different sport from every different country. Yeah, it happens sometimes.
Um, I had 2 guys in the mid-range, and it was one that's there because similar to what Rob said, when someone is just has the form that they have right now, how do you overlook them in a position where you're traditionally in the -17, -18, -20 range after 4 rounds? So just kinda honorable mention, Sepp Straka right now can be seen anywhere between +4,000 and +4,500 this week. My only concern with him is he just battled at Pebble Beach.
Yeah.
He's played every tournament this year. He's played every single week. The guy's got to be beat. And maybe a little bit of that tiredness showed on Sunday, right? He finished even par. Everybody kind of surpassed him. He fell back a little bit. So that was the only reason why I didn't include him in this. But I think that at that number for a guy of his form, it's some really decent value. Going with a horses for courses guy, had an absolute devastating loss here a few years ago, fits the mold to this course really well, can absolutely be wild off the tee, but I don't think that'll hurt him. And that's Thigala. I like him. You can get him, and again, anywhere in that +4,000 to +5,000 range, depending on your book. But I really like him this week.
I went back and Thigala was on my list. I went back and looked at Thigala when he played here last year. I just wanted to see like how he came in form wise off the tee, right? He came in scattered, right? Like typical Thigala. Some rounds
Yeah,
he was great off the tee, some bad, but he gained strokes off the tee every round here last year. I believe that was the second he only did that twice all last year. Oh no, he did it a couple times. I guess he only did it twice at it wasn't signature event. So maybe it's a little bit more. There's no correlation, but I thought it was really interesting that he gained strokes
yeah.
all 4 rounds off the tee here. Because I'm trying to think of the tournament. Remind me, maybe it was Honda. Was Honda called now? I can't remember what Honda's called now. Cognizant. I think it
Mhm.
was Cognizant where he like dunked one in the water or something, and I was just like, man, I'm so off on this guy. Maybe it was API, something like that. So
Yeah, he's a tough guy to read. I mean, Thigala. I feel like this year he's been on that Max Homa trajectory, right? Like
yeah,
he has not had a very good start to this season.
no, I mean, he played well at the Century and then just has blown up every single tournament, especially the guys. He's lost 4 rounds on approach, 4 out of 5 rounds. But this is the course, like this, that's like more like his style, right? Like this
Yeah,
desertish kind of golf, dry guy who, wants to hit these dry, baked out greens with no wind.
yeah.
Rob, do you have anybody in the mid range?
Yeah, I co-sign Straka because he's been hot and he's been playing well pretty much every round. But I like Nick Taylor, 65-1. You can get him at Bet Online, 65-1. And like we said earlier, his track record here is great, and he's having the best start to his season that he's had in his career. And I think if he can get hot and play from the front, right?
Yeah.
Uh, if you come out hot here, this is one of those courses where it's like the scoring is the winner is -20, right? Like if you get out to a lead, it's going to be hard for people to catch you, right? So I think he can come out hot. But yeah, +6,500 actually at FanDuel. That was too good for me to pass up.
I thought even though he finished T33 at Pebble, for everything that went wrong, or for the amount of things that went wrong, finishing T33 was like a massive win. If I'm on the Nick Taylor camp, like he just had a lot of bad breaks and then put together some bad shots, but he
Yeah.
still finished inside the top 40, which was beating
Yeah.
half the field, which was really nice.
Nick
And
Taylor's
it's
that
night and day from that course to
Oh yeah,
obviously
big
Phoenix.
time.
But
Taylor's that guy come Sunday where if he does win, everyone looks at each other and goes, "Why didn't we bet this guy?" Right?
Yeah.
Like there's no reason not to take a chance. So yeah, I agree with him.
I'm going with Lucas Glover. He hasn't quite had success here since I think it was 2022. Was his best finish recently, but he's the kind of guy that, just gets hot. He gained 5.7 strokes on approach last tournament. I went and I hit him up on Instagram and I was like, yo, are you getting another 5.7 strokes? Like, that is phenomenal. And the one aspect of his game that's his best aspect of his game, or the most streaky, which is his putter, it just wasn't there for him to capitalize. But he's traditionally a good putter, right? Like top 10 in the field in putting. So great ball striker. I was really surprised to see how well he's been striking the ball. Finished, I think he's like third in ball striking, 100-1. I signed up for that.
Did he reply to you on Instagram? Because
Not
he
yet.
doesn't.
I really want to
He
know if
doesn't. He
he's
doesn't seem like
super
a big
active.
social media guy.
He's active on Instagram, like super active.
Well, it'd be
He
really
has a
fitting
show
for
that he
him.
does on Insta. He doesn't. I don't think he even has a Twitter or an X. Like I don't think he has a Twitter and X page at all. I couldn't find it.
And Brad, it'd be very fitting for him to win after I had him when we all had him last week.
Yeah.
That would be very fitting, very similar to Straka when he won. All right, we're gonna go into long shot.
Yeah, go to your long shot.
So we've had some consistencies across this entire show, which was horses for courses, recent, past history. And again, I really dialed into that list of guys who have, the year prior or several years prior have had very good finish. And another guy who just makes a ton of birdies, a waste management ambassador, wears the green like nobody else. I'm going to sprinkle on Charlie Hoffman at 120-1. Is it a stupid bet? Absolutely. Am I going to make a video and post it on Instagram again and get absolutely destroyed like I did for my Brendan Todd call out last week? Yeah, probably. But is he going to win? No. Could he win? I think he could.
I like it. Listen, I can't say wrong to any long shots. You can say a long shot, and I'll be like, they have a chance. Rob, who's your long shot favorite?
I'm actually embarrassed saying it. It's a guy, like, his track record here has been amazing. His best finish last season. I know, like, maybe he's got a slight wrist injury right now, but he's coming back off surgery. Jordan Spieth, 90-1, right? Like, if he can get out first round, come out hot, and make some birdies, he's one of those momentum golfers. It could just carry him through the weekend. Outside of Scotty, I mean, he can pretty much beat everybody in this field if he's playing up to his best ability, right? And 90-1. I mean, I never would have thought 5 years ago I'd ever get Jordan Spieth 90-1 at Phoenix, but here we are. So I'm betting like a quarter of a unit on it. I mean, that's about all I can hack for that one, but I just don't want to be there to miss it. Like you said, I don't want to be there in the fourth round, final round. Jordan Spieth with a 3-shot lead, and me saying, 90-1, we should have taken him.
Yeah.
So,
and he's one of those guys that gets crazy respect, right? So if he goes out there and he's -2 through 2, he's going from 90-1 to 30-1 in the first 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So it's like that's the highest he's possibly going to go unless he starts poorly. And Brad, you actually liked Jordan for a little bit last week. So I don't know how he did. I just saw that he
69th.
69th.
And it's tough, right? He carded a 9.
So 69th of 80.
Yeah.
Awesome. Almost as good as Aberg, who withdrew after last week. So got you.
All right, let's get into the next section here. We're gonna go with props, and my favorite prop. I'm not gonna double dip. I'm just gonna go with my favorite one. I'm gonna delete the other one. I'm going with Sepp Straka, 35th or better, -120 there. This guy's just playing out of his mind. And the reason I didn't take him in the top 20 market is because I do think he's gonna hit a wall, right? Like you can't play that much golf and not hit the wall. It just happens with everyone, especially since he was dealing with flu-like symptoms early in the week. Eventually, you're gonna get tired, but I think he can do enough like to come out hot and just hang around Sunday, and 35th or better is good enough for me at -120.
What book are you getting 35th or better?
That's it should be on like Bovada, but I played it on Bet365.
Nice. Yeah, you see top 30 a lot. And then obviously people who are limited on Hard Rock to top 20. His top 20 number is +145, which I don't like.
Don't like it. He's probably not going to grade out well at a course like this. Let me just check see what his number is. I couldn't imagine he's more than like 50th at this kind of course. 32nd, right? Like he's not going to grade out super well. He's not this great guy out of the bunker. He doesn't put up these blistering approach numbers, but he's just such a great all-around player and a good putter to where he can play at any course.
And really, last week until the final round, he looked like he couldn't miss. Like,
Yeah.
it was just incredible what he's been able to do this year. So I wouldn't put it past him.
Yeah.
So for me, I am not, and I've never been, you guys know this, my followers know this, my community knows this. I don't like a guy to win at plus 300. That makes absolutely no sense. But let me tell you this, and I want to run it by you guys, and you tell me what you think. So Scotty to win the entire tournament across the entire field, he's right now at Hard Rock, he's plus 250. For him to be top American, he's plus 210. But if you look at the odds board, in the top 16 lowest odds, 11 of those 16 are international players, which means
Wow.
that you're basically removing 11 of the top lowest odds guys, and he's pretty much the exact same. So for
Yeah.
me, if you are going to bet on Scotty, don't worry about betting him to win the entire tournament. Just worry about him beating the other U.S. players.
I actually saw, if you take it one step further, I saw Scheffler, he was like plus 260 for top North American. So just
Wow.
throw the Canadian guys in there and
Yeah.
you get a little better value there.
I just thought, like, breaking it down, I was just like, okay, Matsuyama, M, Kim, Straka, Connors, On, Mac, Højgaard, Taylor, Kim, Fitz. Those are all international players. None of those are American, and they're 11 of the lowest odds out of the top 16. I mean, that sounds like some pretty good value.
Rob, you have a prop for us?
Yeah, I mean, I took Charlie Hoffman top 20 plus 360. Second last year, obviously, here, and 14th in 2023. So
Yep.
the last 2 years, he's been on fire here. I also took him top 30 at plus 200. I feel like you said, he wears the big, ugly yellow shirt. He's got his big flowing mullet, right? He's got his, his Oakleys on, and he knows his course better than anybody. So I like Charlie Hoffman, plus 360 top 20, plus 200 top 30. So and he's having a great start to the season. You know, 5th at the Amex, 25th at the Farmers.
Yeah.
For Charlie Hoffman, I mean, that's probably his best start to a season in years, right? So
yeah, I didn't even think Charlie Hoffman was on tour until recently, right? Like, he just went away for a while, and then he had a good tournament last year and fought to kind of have his card. Yeah, I totally agree, and it's going to be very typical. Rob, you're going to win your top 30, your top 20, and then he's going to shatter my dreams on my outright because he'll finish probably top 5. But
and he'll win first round leader.
Yeah. Let's get into first round leader. Speaking of, I'm just gonna name off top guys right now. And if you give me like one or two guys that you like, Scotty Scheffler is the favorite at plus 1,200. Justin Thomas at plus 2,500. Hideki at plus 3,000. Burns and Sungjae both at 3,500. Tom Kim at plus 4,000, and Thigala at plus 5,000. Any of those favorites, or are you guys going down on the odds board? And if so, who?
I'll let Rob go first.
I mean, Scotty Scheffler, plus 250 to win a tournament, but plus 1,200 for the first round leader. I'll take the plus 1,200 all day long, especially when he's a notoriously fast starter when he wins tournaments. So, especially when we don't see like a Patrick Cantlay here, or Morikawa. This is a place where obviously he's done well in the past. So I just like playing that 12-1 number better than the 2.5 to 1 to win the tournament. So I do like Scotty at 12-1 for first round leader.
You know what this reminds me of? This one reminds me of the 2022 Mexico Open, where John Rahm went off at plus 250 or plus 200, but it was first round leader at 11-1, and he went out and shot a 64 in round 1.
Yeah.
I went with Andrew Novak. I took Novak. I also took the glove. Just Novak's a fast starter coming off a really good Sunday finish. I think it was shot 65 out there at Pebble. This is a course that, he should play well in, right? Like, he's the kind of guy, especially who his misses to the right. Here, you don't want to miss left. It just kind of sets up for him nicely.
Yeah, Novak, typically, if you look, his numbers when he tees off early are incredible. When he goes later in the day, for some reason, he's not as efficient. We don't have the tee times yet, but if he's off in the morning, I absolutely love that. And I think I saw him at plus 7,500.
Yeah.
So really like that. For me, I don't like to double dip who I give for winners, but also first round. But you're ultimately cheering for that person from start to finish, anyways. So I do like Thigala at plus 5,000. I think I saw him in that range. And I got to piggyback off Rob. Like Hoffman, you can get him as high as 100 to 1 first round, plus 8,000 round one. These are guys, again, they're excited. They're happy to be there. The weather is nice. They have good history, good vibes. And are they going to win? Maybe not. But they can definitely come out and go low. But if I remove all of that and just want to hammer one guy for value, the only value play for Scotty is first round. So I totally agree with you, Rob.
And also, I'm taking Charlie Hoffman also 80 to 1.
Yeah.
Because if he gets rolling, he knows this course very well, and the course starts like last year when he got rolling here. The course started to play easy to him. He was taking a lot of chances because he knows where to hit it here. Like a lot of guys playing here for the second time, they really don't know all the ins and outs of this course. Well, he does. So I like Charlie Hoffman 80 to 1. I like that. It's like 80 to 1 that I like. It's not like a Jordan Spieth 70 to 1. It's like I just bet it because of value, but Charlie Hoffman, I like it at 80 to 1.
I put a free bet on Charlie Hoffman, so I guess we'll squad ride this as well. I'll put a official bet on him. He's just that number just doesn't make sense for a guy that plays this course well and coming in with a little bit of momentum too. Let's go pivot a little bit, and before we wrap, I just want to ask each of you guys, Super Bowl's here, right? First, who you have winning, and then your favorite prop. I'll start. I went with the Eagles here. A little bit of run D regression for the Chiefs over the last 5 weeks, and also the only running back of real note. No offense to Joe Mixon, that they played was week 1, right? Week 1, where the GM came out and said we didn't get Derrick Henry to run him 20 plus times a game. They didn't run Derrick Henry, even though he got less yards than net expected. I think he was like a 34% less than net expected. They only ran him 16 times. Derrick Henry's the guy that needs the ball in his hand. I think the Eagles can run the ball and establish. I also think you think the secondary is so good of the Eagles. They have to just literally stop like 2 players offensively. Well, 3 if you can include Patrick Mahomes. Favorite prop. Speaking of which, Patrick Mahomes over 29.5 rushing yards has hit in every Super Bowl he's played except one. One miss was at like 25, where he only ran the ball 5 times. That was his first Super Bowl. High leverage situation. A guy like Patrick Mahomes is going to want to move the chains with his legs if he can't beat the secondary.
Yeah, I like it. Game script it's going to come down. That Mahomes is going to come down because he's the king of losing 4 to 5 yards on a kneel out every time.
Yeah.
So he could be at 40 or 45 and then gets back down to 25 because he runs down a little bit and then drops for a 4-yard loss. The only quarterback I've ever seen do that. For me, I'm doing this because personally, I'm one of those people where I don't really want to see the Chiefs win again. So I'm going to take an emotional hedge, and I'm going with I think the Chiefs are going to win. I think that it's just too obvious, and Mahomes has screwed me so many times that I just can't go against them. For me, my game script is I think that the Eagles, while they could pull it out, I think they will be trailing a little bit. And given how much Barkley sees the field, I like him for over 12.5 receiving yards. That's my prop for the Super Bowl.
Look, I've said this every time I've bet against him in Super Bowl. I'm not betting against Patrick Mahomes. Just like it's getting to it's in the Tom Brady territory right now for the Super Bowl. If you bet against Patrick Mahomes, at the end of the game, you're just like, why did I bet against Patrick Mahomes? I'm never doing that again, right? And I think the Chiefs, we've seen the Eagles play great many times this year. I feel like the Chiefs haven't even had their great game yet this year. They kind of just glided through the regular season to home field advantage. Mahomes had his worst regular season as a pro, and it seems like they don't have a lot of weapons. But then you get guys like last week or 2 weeks ago who come out of nowhere, Juju Smith-Schuster. He has all these guys that can just do this, like Noah Gray.
Yeah.
Noah Gray can catch 3 touchdown passes in a game, right? So it's like he just has a lot of guys, and it doesn't matter who he's throwing to. Whoever he's throwing to, he makes them. Like you could give him 4 trash guys, and he's just going to make them into 1,000-yard receiver on the season. I think his running game is better than ever this year. I think Kareem Hunt, he's coming. He's looked great.
Great.
and Mahomes seems to be. I just don't know. I just hate betting against Mahomes. So I don't want the Chiefs to win, but I don't want to bet against them because I just don't want to bet against Mahomes, right? And
Yeah.
my favorite. I mean, I don't know if it's my favorite prop, but these props that I like, I actually did one of these props like in the conference championships for that $100 to win 53,000 parlay. I like each team to have one pass and one rushing touchdown each half. That pays 60 to 1.
What?
That's sick.
Right? And actually, Hard Rock, I gave it out 2 days ago. Hard Rock already took it off
That's great.
because we dinged them for a few $1,000,000 on that
Yes,
prop a
thank you.
couple weeks ago.
Thank you.
So I do like that, and you can also bet for 2 touchdown passes and 2 rushing touchdown for both teams for the full game. I think that was 40 to 1. But I do like AJ Brown over 70.5 yards because I think the Chiefs are going to be loading up to stop Barkley. And I think maybe we'll see, like last week, the Eagles air it out a little bit more. You know, Barkley did have that long run, but they did a good job containing him after that. And I think the Chiefs, their defense is great. And I think that it'll make the Eagles, take a few more chances through the air. So I like AJ Brown over 70.5 yards.
And Brad or Rob, just to let you know, it's back on in the exclusives. It's 30 to 1.
Yeah,
60 to 1 I got.
Yeah, you moved
And
that.
they only let me bet $500 on it. So I tried to put more, and it's like,
yeah, they know they're
Yeah.
watching you after that, dude. Listen, quick story before I let you go here. I was having like the worst week I've had all like a year and a half. Like, and then you post that parlay. I was like, missed the first leg, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna take that second leg, put half a unit on it, and ride it out. And then I was like, all right, well, the week just turned right back in a positive way. So thank you for that. Before we let you go, listen, I love asking this question here. I don't know if you're a fast food guy or not, but it's a fun question. If you're not, you totally pass it. If you were to build the perfect fast food meal, right? You could stop at a different location for everything. That be your fries, your entree, your dessert, and your drink. Go ahead and build me the perfect fast food meal.
The perfect entree would be the Mexican pizza from Taco Bell. If we go with fries, it's got to be Checkers or Arby's. I like those seasoned fries.
Yep.
They're the best. Dessert, I mean, I got to go with the Blizzard from Dairy Queen. Snickers, Oreos, and like strawberry put into it. I mean, it's very good. There's Dairy Queen like 2 blocks from my house. So
Oh, that's awesome.
try not to go there because it has like 1,800 calories, I think, in a Blizzard. But yeah, I think Taco Bell, I mean, for me is the best fast food place. And it's not the best, but I don't care about how they make it. I don't pay attention to that stuff. But Taco Bell, and it has to be a Taco Bell standalone. It can't be a Taco Bell Pizza Hut like mixture.
Yeah.
Those ones are like the worst ones. It has to be a Taco Bell by itself. And Mexican pizza, Volcano Crunch tacos. I mean, the Doritos ones. I love those ones. So I try to limit Taco Bell to like, if me and my wife go out, it's 2 a.m. Like I don't feel bad getting it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do like Jersey Mike's has the best subs, like better than Publix.
Yes. Amen. My wife does not think so, but I love Jersey Mike's. I literally had Jersey Mike's
So
already
good
this week.
And when I go to Jersey Mike's, I almost hate going there because I can't get the medium. I have to get the like gargantuan one, the big one. So I do like Jersey Mike's, but there's so many good, fast food places. McDonald's is solid too, but it hasn't been going anywhere lately, So
yeah.
Taco Bell Mexican pizza is, if I had to pick one fast food item at any restaurant, it's a Mexican pizza from Taco Bell.
Oh, yeah. Love it. Well, thank you for your time. And everyone who is watching on YouTube, make sure you smash the like, press the subscribe button, comment who you think is going to win the Super Bowl and the Waste Management Phoenix Open. If you listen to a podcast form, make sure you download and subscribe. For Beating the Bookie, for Mr. Money Mills, I'm Brad Thomas. Enjoy Super Bowl and the Waste Management Phoenix Open.